Fellow FPL managers, today we are looking at my team for Game Week 22, discussing captaincy in depth and looking at some of my future transfer plans. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. We will quickly recap the Game Week 21 results to begin this video, and it wasn't a great week, to be completely honest with you guys. It was very low returns across the board. I didn't have a player who scored more than 6 points, which is fairly embarrassing. I'm surprised my red arrow wasn't bigger. My aim this season is to finish in the top 5k, because not too long ago, that's where I was, and I let it slip by making a poor captaincy decision in I think Game Week 17, so I want to get back. But the problem is, I've never had a second half of an FPL season that's been better than my first half of an FPL season. It's a problem I have. My second half is always worse. I don't know why. In theory, the data is more reliable going into the second half of the season, and I should be able to make better educated guesses, better picks in FPL, but apparently I'm a Game Week 1 merchant. At the end of the day, it's not looking good. Double Arsenal defense in the last game of the game week was very helpful. It definitely mitigated the damage of my red arrow, and Sharda getting 6 points was very helpful, although I'm a bit frustrated because if he played the full 90, I think he could have hit Defcons, but he ended up being an early sub. Since I wildcarded in Game Week 18, I think I've been fairly unlucky with a lot of surprise injuries, but at the end of the day, I can't complain too much because from Game Week 1 to Game Week 17, I've been quite fortunate. Definitely on the luckier side of things, if you exclude those 2 Bruno penalty misses at the beginning of the season. I have 3 free transfers going into Game Week 22 with 0.3 million in the bank, which makes me quite flexible going into this game week. But I still don't plan to use any free transfers despite my team not looking super optimal this game week. And I'm going to tell you guys why. Let's start with the defense, okay? In goal, I don't really like making goalkeeper transfers. I'm not incredibly happy with Verbruggen. Since I brought him in on wildcard 18, Brighton are actually last for expected goals conceded. Their defense looks awful. But to be fair to him, in that time he has kept a clean sheet against Burnley, so it's not all bad. Looking at the defense, Timber and Gabriel are set and forget players in my team. The issue is, they both just played a full 90 on a Wednesday evening and they play on the weekend. They may need some rest. I'm not so confident in Timber definitely starting like I am Gabriel. I'm fairly confident in saying to you all that Gabriel will start. But Timber, as an owner, I'm not super confident in him starting. Either way, I'm not going to bench him because he could come on as a sub and get a goal involvement, or he could start and get a clean sheet. It's just a bit too risky to bench him. And if he does get benched for a clean sheet, he can definitely make up for it further down the line with a goal or an assist, which he gets plenty of. We finish off that defence with Romero playing home to one of the worst teams in the league, and the Spurs defence looks quite solid recently. The underlying data for them is good. I've had Romero for 2 game weeks, and he's been very unfortunate to not come away with at least 1 clean sheet and 1 assist because he's created, I think, 2 big chances, and his expected clean sheets have been quite high, especially when he played home to Sunderland, but Sunderland somehow managed to pull back a goal and equalise against Spurs, which was heartbreaking to see in one of the last minutes of the game as a Romero owner, but that's what FPL's like. It happens all the time. Hopefully, Romero can make it up to me this game week. In midfield, it doesn't look incredibly optimal. Like, I've got Cunha on my bench because I think he's the worst option. I'm playing Sharda over Cunha, which a lot of people may doubt, but looking at Chelsea recently, their defence looked quite poor. Even Gyökeres scored against Chelsea on the Wednesday evening, so it looks like anyone can score against Chelsea at this point. And Sharda looks to be on good form while the Chelsea defence looks quite poor, so that's why I've made that decision. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. As for Foden, I know a lot of people are selling Foden, but I did mention this in my last video. Foden has a good fixture run along with Manchester City, and his underlying data looks better than most Man City attackers. I mean, you've got Ryan Cherki who looks a little bit better, but his minutes aren't as guaranteed as Foden's, especially with Semenyo joining the team. If I could make a straight swap without spending a free transfer, I may actually prefer to own Semenyo because he's looking really good in this Man City team recently, but I'm happy with Foden. I think he can do well playing away to Man United, then home to Wolves the game week after. As for Declan Rice, if you guys watch my videos regularly, you know how much of a fan I am of Declan Rice. On all the set pieces, can score from range, makes runs inside the box, good for Defcons, gets a point for a clean sheet. He does everything. He is not going anywhere. My star differential is Jorginho. Brighton and Bournemouth are both awful defences, so it looks like it could be a high-scoring game. And while I'm not 100% confident Jorginho starts, if I had to bet money on it, I would guess that he does start. If he doesn't, that's going to be rough because he'll probably come on as a sub and get 1 point, blocking a potential Cunha haul on my bench. But that's just how FPL goes sometimes. I'd much rather start Jorginho because his ceiling this game week, if he starts, is really high. Going into the front 3, Haaland is obviously in my team. but I'm not looking to captain him this game week. Now that's not saying I'm definitely going against Haaland, but we will analyse Haaland after looking at this whole team and discuss why I'm not going with him as my captain. Now this would be the third time this season I've gone against Haaland as my captain. The other 2 times I went against Haaland, it went badly. I captained Mbeumo for a 3-pointer when Haaland got 9 points earlier this season, and the one some of you will remember is I captained Foden for a 3-pointer when Haaland bagged 16 points, and that is the game week that shot me right outside the top 5k. You know, definitely not within an arm's reach anymore. I'm still quite far away. So going without Haaland is still a little bit scary, but Ekitike home to Burnley is a little too good to ignore. We're going to look at Haaland and Ekitike in a bit in the underlying data, and you'll see why I'm making this decision. And you know, you don't need me to convince you playing home to Burnley is actually a fair amount easier than playing away to Man United. And finally, we got good old Jarrod Bowen. To be honest, I think my hopes for him were a little too high since I brought him in. He's not been amazing for me since he's been in my team, and I don't have massive hopes for him away to Tottenham. I mean, I don't know who I'd rather get points. Would I prefer Romero to get points for a clean sheet or Bowen to get points for a goal? If West Ham do break my Romero clean sheet, as long as Jarrod Bowen's involved, I'm not going to mind too much. It will be a little helpful. If I see a West Ham goal and Bowen's not involved, that's when I'm going to be mad. It's when I'm going to be upset. Okay, Erling Haaland. Looking in depth here, you can see his data is not great in his last 4 games. The only goal he scored is from a penalty. So even his XG here, you know, it looks good. On paper, from open play, it's actually worse. And he's had 2 big chances from open play that he's not managed to convert into a goal, which is not like Haaland. Now, playing away to Man United, on paper, is a grey fixture, right? It's not amazing. It's fairly poor. Well, that is if the Man United defence was good. But as we all know, the Manchester United defence is quite bad. Well, that's what you think. Manchester United in the last 8 game weeks are actually first for expected goals conceded. The least in the league. That's ahead of the likes of Arsenal and Man City. So, is Haaland the best captaincy option? Is he playing that easy of a fixture? I don't think so. Now, Manchester United are changing systems, so they could look a little shaky. But Carrick knows how Pep City plays. Everyone does. He can make a game plan for that game specifically. Whereas Pep Guardiola doesn't know how Carrick's Manchester United plays. I mean, he could go back and watch Middlesbrough tapes as, you know, to when Carrick was there and see if he can study Carrick's management style. But I doubt he's going to do that. You know, either way, I wouldn't put anything past Pep. But in reality, this new manager bounce could be really good for Manchester United, and I think is a good opportunity to go against Haaland. Now let's look at Ekitike. Looking at his last 4 game weeks before his injury in the Premier League, the underlying data looks good, and as I mentioned already, he's back on form, coming on as a sub in the FA Cup and getting a goal and an assist. The fixture for Ekitike is much better, the form is much better, so even though it's a lot riskier, all the questions we're asking, the answer is Ekitike. He's better in almost every single aspect. The only aspect he's worse in is the fact he's not Erling Haaland, and Haaland can score a hat-trick against any team in the league despite how poor his form is. That's why it's so scary, because you know Haaland's ownership is going to be so high, and you know he has hat-trick potential. But either way, I'm very much adamant that Ekitike is the best captaincy option for Game Week 22, and he will be my captain if I'm confident he starts. Now, as of right now, I'm fairly confident he will start. There's no reason he shouldn't, but if we hear team news closer to the deadline that he's not going to start and he might be on the bench, then I will change my captaincy back to Haaland. So that's why I believe Ekitike is the best captain. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments, because I'm interested to hear what you guys are going to do. So I actually have no plans to make any transfers for Game Week 22 or Game Week 23, even if Ekitike is missing Game Week 22, which we know he won't anyway, because I do have decent bench cover in Cunha, so if any of my attackers do turn out to be out injured, I don't need to worry too much because I have bench cover, meaning no transfer is needed to Game Week 22, but we already know that. So if we fast forward to Game Week 23, you'll see I'm also happy to roll the transfer here, despite having 4 free transfers in Game Week 23 after rolling in Game Week 22. My team still looks really well. Some of these players have really good fixtures, and fair enough, the good fixture runs sort of do end in Game Week 23, so I will need to sell a lot of these players in Game Week 24, but going into Game Week 24, I will have 5 free transfers. Now, I'm going to give you a rough idea of what my transfers would look like in Game Week 24. Just know plans change. I could have injuries to deal with. I may not have 5 free transfers by this point because I could change my mind in Game Week 23, but I want to fund Cunha to Bruno. So what if I go Cunha to Bruno? And maybe I want to get Chalobah because the Chelsea fixture on looks really good. What if I want to get, I don't know, Ayari from Bournemouth to save some money, sell Jorginho and go to some bench fodder there. That means I can then go from Ekitike, who has a bad fixture run, to maybe the likes of Sesko or even Liam Delap, either one that's looking good for minutes because they both have really good fixture runs. And to use my 5th and final free transfer, I could sell Sharda, even though I wouldn't love it because he's doing well at the moment. He has a really bad fixture run and I could target another Chelsea attacker like maybe Pedro Neto. These exact 5 transfers definitely won't go ahead in Game Week 24. Like I said, it's a rough plan. Bruno probably almost definitely comes in. Chelsea and Man United attackers probably also come in. And I'm also going to have to downgrade Jorginho to someone to fund all these transfers. So we'll see how it goes in the near future. I want you guys to let me know down in the comments what you would do with all these free transfers. But yeah, talking specifically about Game Week 22 again, I just don't feel the need to make a transfer. So the plans are just to roll here like I've already told you, and hopefully the same in Game Week 23, but my plans could change. Anyway guys, that is it from me. If you did make it this far, you are greatly appreciated. Make sure you follow my Twitter/X account. I'll link it in the description. That is where I post my final team just before the deadline. So if there are any surprise last minute changes, you can go check out my team on there. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video.